It's time for Cutting Edge Consciousness with Freeman Michaels and Barnet Bain. Thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And welcome to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here.
With Barnet Bain. Good moment, everyone. I like the little pork pie deal you got going
Well,
there.
last week we were talking about the old guy and how content he was.
Yeah.
And so I felt inclined to bring it back. I'd actually worn it once before.
You did, really.
You weren't here that day. I mean, you were here, but you weren't totally here.
Yeah, I'll have to check my notes.
Yeah, right.
So I wasn't fully present, is what you were saying. I was either ruminating about the past or,
Right.
or
Projecting
lost in the future. But I am here right now, and I am in the moment, in my body, in the element, and very aware of what's going on. And I'm admiring your pork pie.
Thank you.
It's great.
Now I'm obsessing. You got to move your mic down a little bit.
Okay, how's this? How's
Better.
that?
Just
Is that good?
Don't let it flop.
No. Well, it always does because we have not that anybody's listening for management, that anyone's listening to our show upstairs, but if anybody is,
Can you fix the mic?
yeah.
What is that? Holder?
The mic.
It's an apparatus.
The mic app thing. Yeah. So. Back to being present, as long as that feels right. Being present. I feel very alive today. My body feels relaxed. I know that my body is relaxed because I can feel it. And when my body is not relaxed, the last thing I'm aware of is my body.
That's right.
Unless it's in spasm, but generally,
Right.
it's so...
That's how your body sometimes says, it's time to pay attention to me. It does something reactive, and
Yes,
then
and
your
it's
back
like-
is thrown out
yeah,
or something.
Can you please shuttle down out of your head and back into your shoes a little bit? How about that?
That's what happens.
Yeah.
So what are we talking about today?
I'm taking a breath.
What's the plan? What's the topic?
Well, we could talk about spontaneity. And to be really spontaneous, you do have to be fully present. Right?
You know, the space before something comes in that sort of grabs my attention and I want to go with it is precarious. It's allowing for that.
It's risky.
It's risky. It's risky because it could be empty. It could be boring. But without empty space, and this is a addiction. I don't know if that's the exact right word. It's a preoccupation in our culture to keep filling the space, filling the face.
Filling the face. Well, that's also a preoccupation. In the culture.
We could go, that is different.
We usually fill the space by filling the face. Yeah, you run right to the fridge.
Stuffing things in the face. So having an empty space, an empty vessel, creating, this is the analogy of pouring something out of the cup so that there's space for something more to come in. And we keep trying to pour things into a full cup, and it doesn't work.
It's very, very interesting. There's this enormous synchronicity at play here. The ecstatic...
We depend upon synchronicity.
We do. We rely on it. The ecstatic explosion of coincidence. So in the early hours of this morning, I was having kind of a semi-lucid dream. And in that dream, I was speaking in front of a group. And I was introduced, and I stepped up. And I didn't know what I was going to speak about.
Terrifying.
And one moment went by, and then another moment went by. I wasn't terrified because it was a dream. But I wasn't terrified.
If you can retain that quality in the
next
waking
time
dream, you'll be in great shape.
I just don't want to test it out. But,
Right.
But if that's how it's meant to be, then that's how it's meant to be. But in the dream, I stepped up, and there was silence. And then another moment of silence. And then another moment of silence. And then I had the thought that I would hold that silence, and that's what I would speak about. So I held the silence for probably about 20, 30 seconds.
Wow.
And people in the room began to fidget and get very awkward and very uncomfortable. And they started, people started to worry about, was I okay? Was everything all right? Are you all right? Are you okay? All sorts of agency kicked in. Are you all right? Are you okay? Do you need water? And And then I at that point I woke up out of the dream. But where it would have gone, as I thought about it later, is I wanted to talk about how uncomfortable, how awkward we are with uncertainty and with mystery, and that how much we are disposed to fill in every moment. So maybe the next time I do a talk, I'll start by not saying anything.
I like that.
See who breaks first, me or them.
I liked the last time you gave a talk when I was present, and you pulled out what looked almost like a Bible, and it had a ribbon that kept its place, and you opened, and your first reading was from whatever the heck you said it was, and I thought that was really beautiful because you were creating a kind of pomp and circumstance around.
That was fun.
It was great. It was really great.
That was a big book.
That was a huge book. Where'd you find that book?
I found it at a yard sale. This giant old Merriam-Webster's, gigantic, heavy weight. And I sprayed it. I got it for like $5 at a yard sale, and I thought that's too cool. And then I sprayed it black. And I thought I was doing this talk, and I thought I'm gonna use it for the talk, and I'll enough of that.
It was fun though. It was creative.
Speaking of creative,
yeah,
it would be really good if we had anybody creative on the show today,
and spontaneous,
and fun,
and irreverent, and
somebody that knew how to
play,
and how to smash piñatas.
I'll bet in her special skills it says really good at smashing piñatas.
No, that's actually the top of her biography. So I want to introduce our guest, our dear
piñata
friend.
smasher.
Yeah, we have with us today Betsy Chasse, who is an expert at devastating piñatas.
Oh, that's great!
Devastating piñatas of every stripe, and then gathering up all of the candy in the bounty. Our listeners, you will know, if not her name, you will know her work. What the Bleep?
What the Bleep?
What the Bleep?
Co-created that.
By your work, you should be known by your work. And if you're known by nothing else but that, then what a mark to have made. She is a contributing columnist to the Huffington Post. She is the author of a new book from Simon & Schuster called Tipping Sacred Cows. And she is here with us today on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome to the show. She's back. She was here before.
She's back.
We should have said that. You there? Spence, you got to give up. You got to bring up her mic.
Yeah.
No, my mic was up. I was holding space.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, that's so good.
That's good.
That's great.
Hey, listen. Wait, just for the
Look
record.
how quickly we could have blamed.
That's
It's
right.
Spence's fault.
She's holding space. Well, this is radio. So it comes the message. Go hold space in your own room.
Everyone just freaked out for a minute, though. It was kind of cool.
No, they didn't. Actually, everybody's driving along. They're all now on KABC.
They just switched stations.
I think I'm going to call my next book Smashing Piñatas.
Yes, yeah, exactly. It's good to have you with us.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love playing with you guys.
We're fun.
You are fun.
Yeah.
We went to school for that.
Yeah.
It was an early education opportunity, but as time went on, that class was no longer offered.
It was an elective when we were in there.
That's true.
But you have to keep saying we're fun because, as Freeman likes to remind me, you have to act as if.
Right. I don't believe that you have to act as if. I've just decided to just be, and whatever it is, it is.
Be if. So, Betsy, you're tipping some sacred cows these days.
Yeah, I am tipping a lot of sacred cows. I love the tipping of the sacred cow. It's fun. You don't have to do it at night, and it's not it's not cold, and the cows don't stink as badly. But
yes, and you can see where you're walking in the day, which is very important when you're tipping cows.
I broke my collarbone filming a book trailer for tipping sacred cows, and I thought, Jesus, if I knew this was going to be as dangerous, I would have just gone out and done it for real.
Really?
So, biggest cow tipping. Biggest cow tipping
of the last month.
Of the last month.
Oh,
last month's biggest cow tipping.
It's so funny because I was with you. I got to see I got to see Barnet naked because we hung out at Esalen.
Yeah, that was pretty.
Nice.
Yeah.
That requires commentary. Go ahead.
It requires confidence, too.
Yeah, because there's nothing like hanging out naked in a hot tub with a bunch of your peers to
Yeah.
like really get real.
To really find out who actually is your peer and who is not your peer.
So I think it was really interesting because, you know, I feel like I had a horrible experience at Esalen because I've been really focusing on my life on just being real. Like not actually acting as if, just being who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I've stopped trying to act as if anything anymore because it's all just feels like all just bullshit to me. Excuse me, can I say that on your show? I'm so sorry.
No, you just no, there was just a little gap right there.
Our producer Spence, who actually generally sleeps through these shows.
You woke him up.
Oh, God, sorry.
I love it when you participate.
Reaction out of Spence. We've been on this show for 4 years.
I love it when you participate.
That's so
Pretty
great.
soon we're going to have to put your name on the
Spence.
door.
You know,
Say hello, Spence.
hi, Spence. You better
So
pay
far, a
attention.
brilliant comedy bit and a bad word. This show is the best one ever. And I think I just tipped a cow.
There's a
And-
God,
and,
Mike.
and we talked about Barnett being naked. I mean, how much
Yeah,
better can you get?
yeah. Do we have we don't have any pictures, do we?
They don't allow cameras, I don't think, although people did have fun.
They did. They had a lot of GoPros, I noticed, in the,
I know,
in the hot tub.
exactly. And that always with the fisheye lens, it's not good in a naked
It's not
hot tub. It
good.
really
Well,
isn't.
you know, for some it's not bad.
It's helpful. So I think the biggest sacred cow that I'm tipping in my life and everything is just getting real about me, getting real, being real, and then bringing and letting go of all the stuff that I think I need to be in order to just be me and be happy.
It's a high bar reel, you know. Because
Say it again.
it's a high bar. It's a
It's a high bar reel. Did you say?
to be
To be real. To
Well,
be real is a high bar
well,
to get
and
over.
the commitment. Just I like this. I'm committed to being real.
Yeah.
And that is not an easy thing to aspire to.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the minute it's kind of like the minute we real or spontaneous, it's like you can't plan spontaneity, right? There has to be an element of nakedness. There has to be a willingness for awkward and for discomfort, and then really watching, at least for me personally, how quickly I track back to framing it. Barnett, you talk about this in terms of getting off the reservation, but the minute you know you're off the reservation, you're not, right? The minute you think I'm off the reservation, you're not. That the spontaneity and the realness is something that must be organic. So it's kind of a catch-22. I'm committed to being real, and then and I don't know what that looks like. You know, because the minute you think you know what it looks like, well, you're not being real anymore.
Well, Esalen was a perfect example for me because I've been going around all over the place and doing these talks and having a really great time just being, you know, myself. And it's been great because I never felt like I was off the reservation, but I was off the reservation because I was outside of anything that I normally I go out and I talk about movies, and it's super easy because I got a movie that I can talk about. You know, now I was out talking about my book, which is very real and very authentic and very much about my personal life, and so I couldn't really hide behind anything. So I was like, fuck it. Oh, now I really did it. I'm so sorry. I have such a potty mouth. I do that in my book or in other things too. I'm sorry. So, hi, Spence. So, you know, I'm just going to be who I am. And then I got to Esalen, and Esalen is such the quintessential sort of spiritual mecca that I got caught in like, oh, I have to be a certain way. And all of that stuff just piled itself back on top of me again, and it was such an interesting experience because I hadn't been there in a really long time. And that you have to be, you should be, you need to do this, you need to behave this way, you need to say this thing, and it was so surreal that when I was like depressed for 2 days when I left. I was like, God, I just had that experience of being sucked right back into that place of having to pretend, to put on the show, to be and act as if. And it was really interesting because it reminded me how much I love just being who I am and just slowing down and listening to myself and saying, well, what do I really want to say here? What do I really want to do here? What feels really good in my soul, and doing it, and having done that for a while now, I just love that place. That's where I really want to be all the time. And I feel like when I'm not there, I can see the misery and the suffering.
Wow, that is fantastic. By the way, we have a note for you from the FCC. And it says that these days you can pay your fine over the internet, which is really good. It's really convenient.
I'm so sorry. I'm not really that sorry because I think that that's who I am, and the FTC should just accept it.
Yeah.
Get over it.
No, that's
They
good.
may or may not have gotten the memo.
That's good. No, but you can actually, there's a little box, and you can write that in as you're paying your fine or contesting it. And you do have the right to a legal representative.
Exactly.
Oh.
I'm just being me, man. I'm just being the authentic
Exactly.
Well,
It's my religious choice, okay?
Exactly.
Yes.
That's actually a good plea. We'll see how that works.
Well, no more than a month or so.
That's right. Everybody
well,
knows that one.
It's
Even
interesting.
the president.
It's interesting. Wait.
was
It's
set up.
interesting because Barnett had said, "I wonder if management's listening to us because Mike hasn't
they
been
are.
fixed in like months."
Yeah, but it is.
And
Yeah,
now
we
they
know.
are.
Now we know. The next thing that's going to happen is we're going to lose our parking.
We never got parking.
but we've been using it.
That's right. We've been stealing someone's spot. Now they're going to finally tell us we can't park there. Oh, my goodness. So that is the risk you run, that people may not like what you have to say.
That's right.
And it has to be edited, and it's a big hassle. And so
But the important thing is, Betsy, is that you look good naked.
So let's go to commercial. Let's try to sort out what we've got, and we'll come back. So those of you listening, stay tuned. We'll be right back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
Great for the 2 or 3 of you that are still tuned in to us. Thank you. Thank you so much for staying with us. We're back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness with Betsy.
It's our most popular show ever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's going to go through the roof. We could actually get syndicated from this.
Awesome. I wanted to tell you something really, as we were talking about the whole language thing. And
Tell
my
us or
inability
sell us, did you say?
to keep my mouth clean.
Yeah.
A really great friend of mine, this guy named Francis Rico, he's a shaman dude. He talks about
Is
the
he like
English
with
language.
the Philadelphia shaman family?
I'm not exactly sure. I think it's I'm not sure. Probably, actually. He calls the English language kerplunk. He says the English language just blows in terms of nuance and the ability to really understand what people are saying, and people just love to get offended so much. And that's actually one of the reasons why I love to curse. I mean, there's an appropriate time for the F word, and you should be able to use it. And it shocks people, and apparently it pisses off the FTC. But if we really started using language authentically, imagine how our communications would change. I mean, if I could just speak my word and say what I needed to say without having to worry about all the drama and upset. I mean, imagine what would happen to our communication. Imagine what would happen to our world,
Yeah, nobody would be speaking.
Nobody talk to each other.
Yeah, it would look like Thanksgiving. It would look like Thanksgiving dinner. Or Christmas dinner. You ever notice there's like two very, very distinct qualities? There's the Thanksgiving dinner where everyone is in their hearts. And then there's Christmas dinner where everybody is, they have 1 or 2 bits of glasses of eggnog, and pretty soon there's no filters.
I enjoy those conversations. I think they're awesome. I love them because you get real.
It's the sacred cow. You get to tip everybody at the table.
Well, and you get to tip yourself because you can't have it both ways. I mean, if I'm going to be able to say what I want to say, and look, you have to be, compassionate and all that other good woo-woo stuff.
Yeah.
But, if I say what I'm going to say, then, you know what, you got to be able to say what you're going to say. And then I've really been practicing this. Like, people ask me all the time, well, what is your practice? Like, I've really been practicing just trying to speak authentically to the person that I'm talking to and listen authentically. And I'm blown away by the conversations that I have with people now. It's so awesome because once we have the freedom to communicate, and that person knows that I'm not going to go into my drama and upset and then blame them for all the misery in my life, and they're not going to do the same. It's pretty cool, the great conversations we have.
Well, one of the things that I enjoy about hanging out with you is I know that there's no topic off limits. And so, and there is something really fun about being with someone who you can handle whatever comes up, and there's a spontaneity versus editing, which, certain people I feel required to edit And that's okay. I mean, I do edit in part out of respect for where they are, right?
Right.
Oftentimes in our community, we may have information and it might be appropriate to edit versus to share it with someone who, in essence, can't hear it, right?
Right. Well, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about your book and really everything you do is a commitment to creating space, which you do in part by being irreverent, right? And what it does is it creates, you're breaking down barriers that have us fenced in, and the idea that it could go anywhere, which is at once terrifying and liberating, right?
Well, like this morning, you and I chatted, and you gave me, we were talking about, stuff. We were talking about money issues and the reflection of money in our lives. And I shared something with you about how my experience of it. And you shared something back with me that was your observation. And it could have been your perception and your opinion and all that stuff. But it was interesting because I think that if I wasn't open to listening to your observation in me, there was insight there for me, And so, you said it in a really kind and loving way, but sometimes somebody might not. And then if I still can listen to them and go, wow, they said that with a lot of anger, but if I just take out the emotion and I listen to what they said, what gem can I find in there that's going to expand or evolve me as a person? And that's really what I'm interested in doing. And I feel like I can't do that when I'm too busy living my belief system about being offended over language or being offended over something you say or do. I can't do any of that.
Well,
There's no expansion there.
and this is almost like living our life by consensus. It's valid once everyone agrees with me. I mean, part of tipping sacred cows is that when we really do allow ourselves to go somewhere and have an experience without looking around to be sure that people like it or they're with us, And so I'm not living my life by consensus anymore. I'm not looking around, making sure everyone agrees with my decisions or my thoughts even, and allowing them to spontaneously come up. And, maybe people don't like it. But again, this creating a space wherein that's the premise. I mean, a lot of this show, Barnet, the premise of the show is, let's not script it. Let's not follow a formula other than there is no formula, and there's something to that is almost formulaic. But that said, that's where the good stuff lies.
There is a wonderful, wonderful attribution that Rachel Naomi Remen, we have to have on this show.
I love her.
We have to
Kitchen
get her on
Table
the show.
Wisdom.
Yes, and Blessings from
my grandfather's blessings.
My grandfather's blessings.
It's the other
I
book.
just love it. I keep saying we're going to have to reach out to her and follow through. But she, in one book, she writes about something her grandfather shared with her as a young girl when she took offense at something that somebody said. And and her grandfather, who was an Orthodox rabbi, said to her, God, it is a sin against God to offend another person. Because you offend another person, you're also offending God. But it is equally a sin. It's equally a sin to take offense for the same reasons. So that strikes me so powerfully and so deeply because I certainly too quick to take offense, and I nobilize that to myself. I didn't deserve that, and how dare you? And I'm being dissed, and all of this sort of stuff, all this sort of whiny stuff, and it causes, it does separate me from feeling whole and feeling connected, and
creates a dissonance. Not
only with another, but with all that is, with everything. It's such a hubris. It's such a hubris. And Betsy does not have any hubris. I'm pleased to say she whacked that piñata in a big way.
And what spilled out was delightful. Go on, Betsy. You're going to jump in.
Well, it also makes life. We were talking about fun earlier. Like, it makes life so much more fun. I just decided. We take life way too seriously, and we're taking everything way too seriously, and it's not fun. And I'm getting wrinkles because I'm in my 40s, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting wrinkles because I'm getting wrinkles in the wrong places. I want the fun wrinkles, not the stress wrinkles. And just this idea of like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to not become offended with what everybody says all the time, and I'm just going to loosen up a little bit and realize that, you know, that person's running around with their own story and their own program and their own stuff going on with them. And so they generally, oftentimes I've found, they don't even actually mean to offend me. Like, I have a funny story I'll share with you. It was super hilarious. There was a perfect example of what we do. So I went out, I was going to be on TV, and I bought a cute new dress to wear on this TV show to promote my book, Tipping Sacred Cows. So I went out and I bought this dress, and I came home and I put it on, and I was modeling it for my boyfriend, and he's laying on the bed, and he looks up at me, he smiles, it's just kind of a little smile, and he says, "Wow, that's awesome. I love the whole cow thing."
Oh, no.
And I was like, in my head, I'm like, did he just call me a cow? Is that what he just called me? I was like, wait, and I thought, okay, wait a second. Take a breath here, because I could either go running into the bathroom, rip off the dress, and like there'd be no fun that night because I'd be sobbing and the mascara would be running and I'd be going into my body issues about how I look like a cow. Or I could just do one crazy idea. I could just ask him. I'm like, you know, I didn't get that joke. Can you explain it to me? And he's like, honey, your book is called Tipping Sacred Cows. The dress is black and white. It's a whole cow theme. I thought I was actually
It's a Holstein thing.
And calling you really clever. I'm like, oh, okay, phew. You know, like in 1 millisecond, it could have gone either way.
Well, and then
well, it's good that he's that quick on his feet too.
That's another one too. Is that it recovers fast.
And I bought it. That's,
See, that's it. And
That's
that would be a valid interpretation as well. Look, the offended part of me is ready to be pricked in moments, you know, and so then just my ownership of, oh, that's the offended part of me. Right. And then there is, as you were sort of alluding to over there, Barnett, that there's a gracious part of me that can handle, that has a little more capacity and a little more compassion, you know, for myself and others, wherein I don't have to be so offended. And there's even a more expansive part wherein I can have fun.
If I am less offended, then there is a little less offense in the world.
That's right.
Right.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And
we should create a bumper sticker.
Drama.
Yeah,
there's a lot less drama and there's a lot more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'm up for that. Hey, Spence, I've completely lost track of time. Where are we at with this segment? I have 4 minutes left. Oh, that's fantastic. Today has been
on air, period.
Disorganized.
Ever.
But I love it. It's so appropriate. We have so tipped some sacred cows. Now, some of them can't be tipped.
Some of them come with fines.
That's right. And you have to be willing to accept that, right? Oh, my goodness.
That's okay, Barnett, because I'm tipping my sacred cow around money. I just don't have any, so the FTC can just get in line at this point.
Exactly.
Well, that's a beautiful piece, and you and I, Betsy, have shared this, that part of the gift of sort of having money and then losing it is to realize how vested, at least for me, I got in my money and how distracted I got with that as my sense of self. And, you know, having it all go away and going, oh my goodness, look how, you know, I'm not being prescriptive to say it will liberate you. I don't know if that's true or not, but for me, there was a beautiful moment when the money went away and my wife and I decided to reinvest in a new kind of value system in our relationship and in what we valued in the world and go camping.
Well, and that's funny. That's what I'm doing in like 2 hours. I'm like,
I know.
I totally stole your thing this morning and took a image of a disposable camera.
Oh, I love that.
And put it online and said, you know, if everything's disposable, what do we value? And that's the thing. I mean, these are the sacred cows. It's like for me, you know, I had a whole story around what money was and what commodity was and what was the commodity that I was living in and giving out. And I had to really, you know, I really decided this year to shift that in terms of, you know, I have this whole thing about money, and every time I turn around, it like rears its ugly head, and I'm kind of tired of dealing with it. You know, I get some, and then I lose it, and then I get some, and then I lose it. And I said, you know, I keep tying it up into all these other things that I love, like for me, creativity. And so I started a big new project recently, and I told everybody involved in the project, anybody who's coming on board, look, there's no money here. We're not going to talk about money. This isn't about monetization. I don't want to hear the word monetization. This is about fun and creativity. And it was really interesting when I did that with the other creative people that were coming on board. They were like, at first you could see this tension of like, what do you mean I'm not going to get paid? I'm not going to, there was that moment of stress. And then it was, are you telling me I can do whatever I want creatively? And I'm like, yes, you're free. I'm going to provide the camera. I'm going to provide crews. You're free. You don't have to behold. And you can do it. You can say the F word, and I won't even care. Let's just have fun. And the minute we took that weight of, okay, we have to pay somebody back, or we have to do this for money, or we have to do this to eat, or survival, we took the whole concept of survival out of the mission of what we were creating. It started to flow. So amazing. I mean, I was pretty amazed at how easily it all is falling together. And all of a sudden, funny enough, every time I turn around, somebody wants to come and be a partner and be in it. And I'm just saying, you know what, not right now, because right now this is about creativity and fun, and we're not talking about money, because I want to experience what does it feel like when I just do something creatively for no other reason than just to express my creativity.
I love that.
So money is the new F word.
I love it.
Yeah.
The M word.
Well, and what comes with it is an indebtedness, is this whole currency of exchange of indebtedness, which is a direct metaphor for our economic system, that money doesn't equal value.
And our relationships.
And that's where I was going, is that it extends beyond just the monetary system. It's an exchange of energy amongst people, is that we're keeping score.
We look to vindicate the past. We always have... we never forget where the hatchet is buried.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk more about where the hatchet's buried, and we'll talk about the sacred cow called money that we're tipping over in this moment. So stay with us. We'll be back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness.
Welcome back to Cutting Edge Consciousness, thought-provoking discussions and bold ideas from the edge of possibility.
And we're back here on Cutting Edge Consciousness. Freeman Michaels here with Barnet Bain and Betsy Chasse, our friend, author of Tipping Sacred Cows. Tip them all the way over again and again. So we've been doing a little tipping here, knocking over some assumptions that bind us to a very small
I usually
story.
double the tax.
Double the tax.
In California, anyway, that works. Double the tax.
But it's great. I like the idea of, can I cut the strings that bind me to a small story? Can I consciously cut them and create space? I mean, it's really beautiful because we started off two themes. One is a lucidity in the middle of this dream and an ability to navigate it. And the second piece, that was Barnett's permission and expansive vehicle. And yours was irreverence, is that I can blow open and create space for myself by, swearing early on and letting everyone know that we're not playing by the rules, which we knew already, but now everyone else knows, including the management. But the point being is just, how do I create space? How do I become aware of what binds me? And how do I consciously create an opportunity to blow out the box, as it were, the present paradigm, which is your commitment, Betsy. I know that from the book, because I read it, that it's...
And the movies.
And the movies, that's true. It's about really, how do I consciously launch a grenade into the middle of the world as I've held it?
Well, and people always are running around going, well, what is the meaning of life? We all have all these things. And, to me, that's the meaning of life. It's like I just need to blow up or tip over all of this stuff that I'm holding as should-bes and the rules and the belief systems, and move beyond them and find out what else is out there. Because, who knows if I'm going to have a reincarnation, or whether I was Cleopatra in my last life or whatever. I'm here right now, and this is what I got. And if I can go through all these different cows and look at them, and it's amazing it's amazing what's on the other side, and it's frightening as heck is what's on the other side, because that's the unknown. That's the mystery part. That's the space that you were talking about. That's the walking up on stage and not saying anything for 2 minutes and seeing what everybody else around you does. That's where I want to live, because that's the unknown.
Yeah, but without making it a shtick. I mean, you and I sort of have spoken about this off air, about how, we have a space creator, and it's a space creator until it's not, until it becomes a shtick, and then we realize we have to create a new one.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you have to. I mean, to me, change is gonna happen. You're either gonna change through crisis, which I'm sort of overdoing. I'm really done with having a knife in my heart, or all of my money gone, or I'm really done with the drama. Or you can change consciously. You can change by going, wow, I've been here for a long time. It's starting to get stale and stagnant. It's starting to become habitual, and it's not serving me anymore, and I'd like to do something else.
We're wired at this point to identify with the crisis. It comes easier to us. Our imaginations are primed and refined to go to the crisis. We are so much closer to it. We're so much more intimate with it. We're so much more familiar about it. We use our generating tools of reality, lucidity and creation, expectation and imagination. We expect problems. We know how to do that. We are not as versatile, as skilled about lifting to opportunity and turning a scary crisis into a productive crisis. We just don't go there. And so we so often, as you say, we learn through crisis and we learn through struggle, and we find the bottom line of what really matters to us that comes out of a loss or deprivation or problems. And I'm also, I want to be more aware of what I'm choosing moment to moment. And I can also learn what is beautiful and what is the baseline truth for me, what matters, out of beauty, out of something that is simultaneously filled with joy and peace at the same time. And from that, what matters to me? Or the alternative is to find that joy and peace and out of great crisis.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to throw my hat in too and say,
don't throw your hat in.
You've
only worn it twice in 4 years. Why are you going to throw it away?
the habit of creating crisis to grow is something I'm totally willing to give up. And I know how to grow through pain. I mean, I've gotten good at that. But this growing through fun, which has been a commitment of mine, and play and exploration, other modulators for growth.
You're going to be alone in that, though, because there is not a lot of support for that. In fact, it's considered intellectually dubious.
But what about this? Let me just throw a wrench into this conversation for just a second.
Tip this cow over.
Yeah.
We talked about the English language being kerplunk, right? And we have these definitions about this is a problem, this is not a problem. This is a crisis, this is not a crisis. So one of the things that I'm working on in my own life is I've stopped defining things in terms of positive, negative, bad, good, crisis, non-crisis. Because that's where all the separation comes from, and that's where the struggle comes from. In my life, in this moment, this is what is occurring. Okay, I'm going to walk through this. I'm going to walk through it with fun and play, and that's how I'm going to deal with it. And it doesn't, because, in any given day, you can have 100 crises. But, it depends on how we define them. It depends on when I go, I'm in a crisis. Now I've set up my body for a crisis. Now I've run the programming for crisis. I've got the chemicals flowing for crisis. But if I just decide to say, wow, today I'm dealing with, pain in my body, and suffering, or I have a flu, or I'm dealing with sickness, or I'm dealing with money issues, or whatever those issues are, I don't actually have to define them as anything bad.
Without spinning a whole narrative and seeing how it plugs into your history and your future and weaving a whole big piece of lace and making that the fabric of your life.
Well, we've said this in terms of also just allowing for that thread of possibility to exist, but allowing others to occur simultaneously. This is the kind of dimensional perspective, is that part of me wants to run down this line and make it a crisis, but another part of me knows that if I can, push the pause button and allow it to float through my experience, the thought or the interpretation, then something else might arise and it might be more attractive. But again, it does, bump up against the familiar, the habitualized, that's where we got
to bump up against your belief. Everything that you are experiencing in your life is running through a filter called your belief system.
Totally.
And your perception. So, a lot of the cool physicists talk about the sea of potentials, right? And so everyone wants to make quantum physics like a religion or a philosophy. It's not any of those things. It's the science about the nature of reality. And one of the things it says is that there are lots of possible things. So if you can take a minute, and what I try to do is take a minute and go, okay, I can have the perception that this is a crisis, or if I wait a minute, I might be able to see another possible perception that might serve me better. It's not going to change the reality in the sense that my car is still broken down on the side of the freeway. That may not change.
Unless
but
it
what
does.
I can change is, wow, this is a really interesting experience. How can I change this instead of being upset and screaming at my car repair guy and all that stuff? What can I do differently that's going to change my experience?
Yeah, and the car may suddenly start working. I mean, I think Barnett kind of threw in, and again, we're not. What I don't want to do, because this is where, and you write about in the book, where law of attraction can go wrong, is use it as another way to try to manipulate from a small story perspective. But
Right.
really, at the edge of possibility, everything changes, and all the
Rome
things that-
wasn't built in a day,
or it was.
but it could have been.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, we hold it in a certain way, but we can, if we really get out on the edge and stop holding the sacred cow of the collective agreement about what the story is and blow that open, all of a sudden, things get pretty lucid out there, and
Then they get really interesting.
That's when the fun happens.
and then we have a crisis and run back to the known. I mean,
Then we have a crisis of success.
Yeah, or anything where we've topped out and don't know where we are and have to run back to. I don't know if we have to, but we're habituated to running back.
I had very briefly, because I know we're running out, and we do want to get to a few more things specifically about where Betsy is. But I, a little while back, I made a decision, and I thought, what would it be like if I really was all in on all of the weird synchronicities that would happen, the weird coincidences that, I love to call them these ecstatic explosions of coincidence. And the more you pay attention to these things, it's like buying a new car, and you look everywhere you look, you see the same new car. The more you pay attention to these things, the more that you foster an environment for more of it to present itself. So I was having these weird synchronicities and these wild successes. And over a period of 3 weeks, they started to build up in frequency. I was having 2, 3, 4 a day, and it got to a place that it made me anxious. It got to be so much that I couldn't handle it anymore. I started to get paranoid and neurotic, and started to feel like, am I having some sort of deluded experience? Is this some sort of weird psychotic nightmare that I'm having of where it's all so good that it can't be true and it can't be real? And I saw how I pushed it all away.
Well, that's the trick. It's like the other thing I've stopped telling myself is that eventually I'm going to be done.
Yeah, there's no finish line.
There's no finish line. So I'm in less of a rush.
Not good for the checkered flag business.
Those folks are really not going to like this.
They're cooked.
Yeah.
Well, this is the challenge. Look, in very simple terms, we've been taught to think in terms of form, and the life gets really juicy when you can think in terms of function. Think in terms of the quality of experience versus the outcome, and let the outcomes take care of themselves. No small task, and not something you do once and figure out the magic formula, because the minute you track back and make a formula, you've lost it. It is, in fact, a relationship with possibility that isn't formulaic. Hey, let's fill folks in. First of all, I want to endorse the book. I think Tipping Sacred Cows is hysterical, completely irreverent, fun, such a delicious expression of who you are, Betsy. And I think it's great. And I understand lots of people do, because I know it's kind of bouncing off the shelves right now, which is exciting.
Well, thank you.
It's tipping off the shelves.
It's tipping off the shelves.
It's tipping the whole shelf, actually.
Yeah. But tell us more about what's going on. So, look, the book's out, in the last minute and change we have. Where can
A minute,
folks...
24 seconds.
Don't
23
count.
seconds.
Don't
22 seconds. I'm just saying.
What are you
20 seconds,
doing with your life these days, Betsy? Fill us in. Where can folks find you? Give them the whole lowdown.
16 seconds,
They
15
can find
seconds.
me at betsychasse.net, and it's always up to what I'm doing. I'm writing blogs. I'm heading out on the road. I'm speaking. I'm going to Sun Valley Wellness. I'm going to Sedona. I'm going to Santa Fe. I'm just kind of really digging, traveling
You get that
around,
triangle
talking to
fare,
people.
Betsy?
Huh?
You get that triangle fare with the mileage?
I don't. I should.
You need to apply for that card right now. We're trying to get them as a sponsor on the show. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll call them and tell them you told me to
Yes,
come.
please. That'll help.
Yeah, so I'm really hanging out in the unknown. I'm working on some new projects, and I'm just really enjoying, actually my kids are on spring break, and I'm going camping. That's what I'm up to.
That is
Where are you going?
delicious.
I'm going to some place down near San Diego. It's like it's got a pool, and it's got, fun stuff for kids to do, and I'm just going to
Sounds like Disneyland.
It's not, except that it doesn't cost the same as Disneyland. See, that's the thing. You can go to Disneyland for like $1,000 for 2 days, or you can go camping for like $80. So
Fabulous.
I'm going to go camping,
Well, I love that. So have a great time camping. Thank you so much for coming and hanging with us.
Well, thank you for having me. It's so much fun to be with you two.
We tipped so many cows.
We did.
The Ranchers Convention are showing up next week too.
Have a great, great holiday, and we will see you around the reservation and off it soon.
And that's our cue. So we are going to say goodbye to all of you listeners, viewers, and we invite you, of course, to keep coming back to Cutting Edge Consciousness. Thanks for watching.